The Nature of Thought by Annie Besant, read by Dave Marsland of Cardiff Theosophical Society. The nature of thought. The nature of thought may be studied from two standpoints: from the side of consciousness, which is knowledge, or from the side of the form by which knowledge is obtained, the susceptibility of which to modifications makes possible the attainment of knowledge. This possibility has led to the two extremes in philosophy, both of which we must avoid because each ignores one side of manifested life. One regards everything as consciousness, ignoring the essentiality of form as conditioning consciousness, as making it possible. The other regards everything as form, ignoring the fact that form can only exist by virtue of the life ensouling it. The form and the life, the matter and the spirit, the vehicle and the consciousness are inseparable in manifestation, and are the indivisible aspects of that in which both inhere, that which is neither consciousness nor its vehicle, but the root of both. A philosophy which tries to explain everything by the forms, ignoring the life, will find problems it is utterly unable to solve. A philosophy which tries to explain everything by the life, ignoring the forms, will find itself faced by dead walls which it cannot surmount. The final word on this is that consciousness and its vehicles, life and form, spirit and matter, are the temporary expressions of the two aspects of the one unconditioned existence, which is not known save when manifested as the root spirit, called the Hindus Pratyagatman, the abstract being, the abstract logos, whence all individual selves, and the root matter Mula Prakriti, whence all forms. Whenever manifestation takes place, this root spirit gives birth to a triple consciousness, and this root matter to a triple matter. Beneath these is the one reality, forever incognizable by the conditioned consciousness. The flower sees not the root whence it grows, though all its life is drawn from it, and without it it could not be. The self as knower has as its characteristic function the mirroring within himself of the not-self. As a sensitive plate receives rays of light reflected from objects, and those rays cause modifications in the material on which they fall, so that images of the objects can be obtained, so is it with the self in the aspect of knowledge towards everything external. His vehicle is a sphere whereon the self receives from the not-self the reflected rays of the one-self, causing to appear on the surface of this sphere images which are the reflections of that which is not himself. The knower does not know the things themselves in the earlier stages of his consciousness. He knows only the images produced in his vehicle by the action of the not-self on his responsive casing, the photographs of the external world. Hence the mind, the vehicle of the self as knower, has been compared to a mirror in which are seen the images of all objects placed before it. We do not know the things themselves, but only the effect produced by them in our consciousness. Not the objects, but the images of the objects are what we find in the mind. As the mirror seems to have objects within it, but those apparent objects are only images, illusions caused by the rays of light reflected from the objects, not the objects themselves. So does the mind, in its knowledge of the outer universe, know only the elusive images and not the things in themselves. These images, made in the vehicle, are perceived as objects by the knower, and this perception consists in his reproduction of them in himself. Now, the analogy of the mirror and the use of the word reflection in the preceding paragraph are a little misleading, for the mental image is a reproduction, not a reflection of the object which causes it. The matter of the mind is actually shaped into a likeness of the object presented to it, and this likeness in its turn is reproduced by the knower. When he thus modifies himself into the likeness of an external object, he is said to know that object, But in the case we are considering, that which he knows is only the image produced by the object in his vehicle, and not the object itself. This image is not a perfect reproduction of the object, as it is modified by the knower. But, it may be said, will that ever be so? Shall we never know the things in themselves? This brings us to the vital distinction between the consciousness and the matter in which the consciousness is working, and by this we may find an answer to that natural question of the human mind. When the consciousness, by long evolution, has developed the power to reproduce within itself all that exists outside it, then the envelope of matter in which it has been working falls away, and the consciousness that is knowledge identifies itself with all the selves amid which it has been evolving, and sees as the not-self only the matter connected alike with all selves severally. That is the day be with us, the union of which is the triumph of evolution, when consciousness knows itself and others, and knows others as itself. By sameness of nature perfect knowledge is attained, and the self realizes that marvellous state where identity perishes not and memory is not lost, but where separation finds its ending, and knower, knowing and knowledge are one. It is this wondrous nature of the self, who is evolving in us through knowledge at the present time, that we have to study in order to understand the nature of thought, and it is necessary to see clearly the illusory side in order that we may utilize the illusion to transcend it.